Perhaps we will begin now with a polite round of applause for the filmmaker John and his subject Bob.
Thank you to Russell for doing this rather curiously. Come on, big round of applause.
Thank you for your preemptive round of applause, even prior to the Q&A. Bob, John, well done both of you. I really enjoyed it. I learned loads from it. Learned loads about art, and I thought it was a very whimsical and interesting film. And although I didn't know much about your work prior to it, I sort of thought, oh right, there's loads of stuff that I like that this is comparable to Half Man, Half Biscuit, Dave Shrigley, things that I sort of identify and understand. So, Johnny, how did you come to make this film about Bob? Tell us why you done it.
Yeah, I'll try and find the shortened version of this, but it started life really with when I moved to Leytonstone in East London. There was a poster on the eastbound Central line, and it was a photograph of a shed in an overgrown garden, and the caption underneath, it said, Leytonstone Centre for Contemporary Art, which I thought was oxymoronic, Serpentine Gallery. And the whole combination of things was really paradoxical. And it sort of stuck with me, and I Googled it, and it was a house. I saw all that you found when you Googled when you Googled Leytonstone Centre for Contemporary Art was a badge. And on the badge it had come to 48, or no, I won't give you a full, come to this house in Rhodesia Road. It was not
he wants people to come, he's putting up posters on the tube. That's not a very elitist method for garnering trade.
So I thought this is probably a sort of like a Goldsmiths graduate conceptual art prank, like making fun of Leytonstone. What a ridiculous place to put a centre of contemporary art. Of course, it's a shed, isn't it? But so I sort of forgot about it for a while, and then when I finished my last film, The London Perambulator, I was looking for new subjects. I thought, I wonder what is going on with. Actually,
it stayed on your mind. It was something you thought about.
Stayed on my mind for about 3-4 years, and I thought, and I'd seen Bob and Roberta Smith's stuff in galleries as well. So that's why he compounded it. He's got work in the Hayward. He can't have a gallery in a garden in Leytonstone. But then when I was looking, I thought it's time's come to buck up the courage. So I rang a gallery where you were showing, and they said, no, that is for real. That is for real. He lives in that house. Go round and knock on his door. So we met
fantastic.
for a point, yeah.
And that's how you recall the events, Bob, or is John lying to us?
Again, it's a tissue of lies. No, he did just knock on the door. But the thing about the film, I think, which...
That's a very specific response there. I don't mean the exact moment of the knocking, I mean the entire anecdote. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the film? Because actually what I'm doing is giving people here an opportunity to think of their own questions, make their own damn questions, which they'll have the opportunity to ask when you finish this answer.
Exactly, and if people do have good questions, they win a prize.
Aha, that's an incentive.
They can win a book or music from the film.
Fantastic, that's a lovely opportunity. I enjoyed both the music.
But do you think, John Rogers perhaps better than I do and longer than I do, but in that film he paints me as some sort of outsider, maverick type person, whereas I think of myself as a sort of intellectual, really. And but it is him who is the outsider maverick. Isn't that true?
I think John is very much an outsider maverick. I can't think of any institution that would allow him in, other than perhaps the Maudsley Hospital for the mentally insane. I think that is a fair analysis. But I think one of the questions raised by the film is there even, what is there to be inside of? What is the art establishment? It seems that, so watching that film, I thought, what does it really mean? There's corporate art. What's the value of that? Then there's a sort of, it seems like a collective of individuals working on their own projects. So it seems to me that there was no clear consensus, particularly for the kind of political art that you're interested in making. That's one of the things that I was thinking about. But this is a Q&A for the audience. Who has the first question for Bob or John?
We've got microphones, by the way.
Microphones. If you cannot enunciate, there are microphones for you, or even if you can and choose not to. Who would like to ask the first question? Yes, madam, there.
I just wondered. Sorry. Hello. Yeah, I just wondered whether Johnny, you were left to make the film exactly the way you wanted to make it and portray the artist exactly as you wanted to portray him. Whether there was any sort of collaborative element in it, or whether you just sort of did it and did what you wanted.
I regard it as being collaborative, and I think Bob's collaboration to it was probably to sort of just let me get on with it a lot of the time. And obviously collaborative because it's Bob's work throughout. I mean, it's Bob's stamps all over it, really. And I tried to make the film in the style of the work as much as I could, and that was, successful to, it's only so far you can take it, but sort of the jump cuts and some of it where I've left it a little bit rough around the edges, and the music and bringing the text out. I think films about artists should kind of look like the work of the artist. But in terms of, I thought there would be far more boundaries than there were. It was ridiculous, because I rang Bob out of the blue, literally sort of metaphorically knocked on the door, said, I quite think I'd like to make a film about you. We met in a pub between our house. He lives just around the corner. And he said, oh, okay, that sounds good. Didn't want to know anything. and then he said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, then I'm going to work. And he went, well, I've got this exhibition in the evening. It was the Reg Perfect one. And I said, oh, do you want to come and bring a camera? I was like, I think I can do that. So I rushed from work, grabbed a camera from work, went to this, so I just filmed. And again, went to put a radio mic on Bob, and he just took the mic and ran round interviewing all those people that you saw. And I thought, well, we've started, then it seems. There was no conversation about what I'd filmed, what I couldn't. And then the next day, he was like, what are you doing tomorrow morning at 6? Sleeping, basically. He went, come on, I'm building a mobile brownfield site in my garden, come round. So we just started like that. And I was asking for boundaries. And I was going, just film, can I use that music? Yeah, use it all, here you go, here's CDs.
That's lovely. It seems that Bob, you were a man who was very much waiting for a film to be made about you almost the very next day. The opportunities were present.
I'd certainly like to think so. No, but I mean, we didn't. The great thing about it is that I mean, it was collaborative in a really good way, where people just get on with whatever they want to do, and we didn't stick fingers in each other's pies, did we? And sort of say, well,
no.
you must do it like this or something.
And because it's Bob's work, it covered 3 years. There's lots of stuff going on. I showed him. I said, "Do you want to see a rough cut to see what you want me to take out?" He was like, "No, not really." And then so I gave him a rough, and then I took 10 seconds out. It was 10 seconds. Let's come out for sort of not particularly sensitive reasons. It would be nice if you could lose that a little bit. That was it.
No, there's one bit where I'm attacking Jake and Dinos Chapman.
I wasn't going to say what it was.
And I just thought, actually, I quite liked Jake and Dinos, and I thought it was slightly bad.
It was interesting watching it with Bob's dealer, though, Paul Hedge. I imagine he's got.
Do you mean art or drug?
Art is a drug.
Bob, I enjoyed the humorous component of your work. I enjoyed the sort of language was at the forefront of what you do, sort of literally language, I mean, and not sort of symbolic language. Do you think that the humour in your work can be used to negate your own emotional input? One of the few moments where you sort of seem viscerally affected in the film was when you talked about the Epstein sculpture. Do you think that your work has that kind of visceral quality? Is that something that you look to in your work?
That's a good point, a good question. I think I'm very interested in trying to make something that's really serious and has some sort of meaning, really, and does move the audience. And although a lot of what I do is, just like almost half a joke or something, and I like those opportunities where you get to do something that's really quite powerful, but it doesn't always come along. And also I'm conscious of not wanting to sort of jump onto somebody else's territory or something, somebody else's pain or something. But that was genuine. We just found those dates in this old Sainsbury's bag, and Neil worked out what they were. Oh, wow. And I just realised that was such a powerful thing. We'd actually, as an artist in residence in an institution, we'd actually done the job. We'd found something really amazing in this archive, which hadn't been revealed before. And everybody talks about Epstein. I mean, he was a really extraordinary artist, and he had his own battles with the art world because it was quite anti-Semitic between the wars. But he was also, a bit of a misogynist, and he sculpted this image of his daughter at that stage when she was 16. She didn't even know that he was her father. So it's it's a really complex story that we kind of tripped into, and so I tried to make this. And they've got this sculpture, and it's not hidden away in the gallery, but it was just one of many sculptures. And when I found that story out, that was just so moving. And then I thought, well, we'd just make a big panel of interpretation so people go and see that sculpture in the gallery, So and they understand it. You know, you can't go to the gallery now without sort of making a bit of a homage to that sculpture and thinking about her story. And so I really like that. And I do think that sometimes the things that I do think, I do say it in that film, that all the things that I do think about them quite seriously. But it's a slightly unfortunate thing that other people find them funny. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the case for you, but sometimes you hit upon something. I'm not trying to, and just the way you do it, because and it just makes people find it funny. But
no, I see there's a lot of sincerity in your work. That the Harry Farr piece that you were working on there, that obviously that's quite sincere, but clearly the lexicon is a humorous one. I think it's interesting what you did there in Walsall, because that in itself, that a retrospective investigation of the work does ally it with a different kind of, like, if not sentimentality, then certainly meaning. So, like, yeah, if I went and saw that sculpture now, I'd be like, it would be imbued with a different meaning. It'd be the kind of thing that I probably would have just walked past. So that's another thing I learned. Anyway, I know you've got some more questions. Yes, mate, up the back, and then you, madam.
It's the drug dealer.
I was just I'm the drug dealer. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, John, when you started making the film, who did you imagine the audience to be to watch this film? Where do you imagine it to go?
He's only asking that because he wants to sell them some paintings.
Yeah, Russian oligarchs is where it's going.
We've got a show opening on the 11th, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
a yacht somewhere.
No, I just think, it's such an unusual film to make in terms of the mainstream, the sort of films that you see nowadays in the cinema. I'm just wondering, when you began making it, if the audience that you thought of is the same as it is now, the audience you think that maybe would want to watch this film.
I think I always...
And actually, sorry, how do you connect it to the London Perambulator with the eccentricity and all that kind of stuff? Do you see?
I think there's similarities. I suppose in the London Perambulator was a really marginal subject. And obviously, most people here probably wouldn't have seen it. It's on YouTube. You can see it. And at the time I made it, the person I was making it about had no public profile really. He had a connection to three very well-known people: Russell, Will Self, and Ian Sinclair. But in terms of Nick Papazimitri in his own right, wouldn't have been known. And so the fact that film found an audience really, because it sort of mimicked the style of a traditional arts documentary, of like an arena, not maybe such an arena, but like a South Bank show, and Imagine, where you get the interviews with the people talk about someone who you know, but in this case they talk about someone you don't know, and so subverted that idea. Because I thought they'll find the audience, people come and see it. The documentary has Russell Brand, Will Self, and Ian Sinclair in it. They might be interested in psychogeography, and then they'll discover Nick, and that kind of worked. I thought, well, this is different because Bob has a profile within the art world, so I sort of almost took it as a given that, well, people that go to the Tate and people that go to galleries will know who Bob is, and within that there's a constituency who'll be interested in his work and come and see it. So I almost sort of took that for granted, really, that audience. And so I thought, what I want to do is not make this too, there's lots of things that got cut out that, where I thought, well, how many people will know who that, is just a straightforward reference to an artist. There was a big, long thing when you were talking to Cedar about the George Michael painting that was all about how it related to the paintings of David Hockney. And I felt a bit left out of that. I thought, when I go to galleries quite a lot, and I thought, I don't get all of that. So I wanted to try and make it as inclusive and as broad as possible to a general audience, really. But obviously, documentary audiences, boy, I'm speaking to one, aren't I? It's not necessarily a general audience. You're not going to maybe bowl out of here and go and see, I don't know, whatever the big film is.
Batman. There's a lady at the front.
What I was going to ask is, the Estes Law, when you went in with the ICA, at the ICA, like everyone was signing everything, what actually happened with that afterwards?
I should say what that is.
Yeah, it was a big sort of drawing that people could sign to support Esther's Law, and I'm afraid it's still rolled up in the corner of my studio, and I've not done very much with it, really.
Do you mean to say that's not in Parliament, even as we speak, being discussed?
No, sadly not. But I need to do something with that. But after that event at the ICA, we did this event called Women Should Be in Charge, and we had all these great women musicians. Gemma Freeman from the Fucks played, and it was just a fantastic evening, Jessica Vorsanger did a performance where she was dressed as Henry Moore, and had all these women dressed as different artists. But after that event, I thought, well, actually, humanity's got to push this idea about Esther's Law. So the idea is sort of throwing that out into the ether to see what happens, and I don't think much has happened with it yet. But I think it is inevitable that at some stage people are going to wake up and say, oh, hold on, Parliament is just full of a very unrepresentative section of society, whether it's men, women, diversity or whatever. It's just very, very unrepresentative of humanity. And so it's a no-brainer to me that should happen, and I think somebody will do it. But weirdly, I don't have that much power.